Today I get to sit down and chat with Stephanie Serone. Am I saying that right?
Serone.
Serone. Okay, good to know. I meant to ask you that before we got started and totally spaced it out. Um,
That's
but
okay. I'll answer to anything.
perfect. Stephanie is a licensed transformologist, facilitating the world's only female-specific transformation process based on the science of epigenetics to resolve chronic emotional issues and intergenerational trauma to eliminate the stress response to create inspiring, instant, and irreversible change. Stephanie would love to talk today about how having health issues can cause us to feel a little, I don't know, weird about ourselves, I suppose. Why women feel like they're constantly seeking help with no lasting results, and why we are so unique in the way we process our emotions. So, Stephanie, I will let you take it from there.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time and for having me. I'm so excited to have this chat. But yeah, basically, I would just love to have a chat about us as women and how we, especially when we've got things going on with our bodies, like medically or pain wise or whatever that might be, really can start to make us feel so many different sorts of ways about ourselves, and it can be its own struggle. Like, even though we have this physical thing, a lot of the time the way we see it and the way we feel about ourselves can be such a whole nother thing that at the same time that we're dealing with. And so that's really important for me, because that was absolutely the sort of place that I was stuck in for a really, really long time.
Okay, so that's super interesting to me, super fascinating because I don't know, I know you've followed me for, I don't know, it's been a couple months now, I think, but part of my story is like when I was 14, I ended up paralyzed. And so like that trauma and how I see myself or how I did see myself, like really initially after that, like holy smokes.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I could imagine, like, your stories and like the stuff that you share is so inspiring. Honestly, so inspiring. And I I have gone through my own health stuff, but nowhere near as to the degree of the types of things that you have had to not even deal with, but and not even like try and overcome, but is a continual thing that you have to, like, that's that position that you're in, and you've got to try and make the best of it and navigate this way. And um yeah, I could just imagine the amount of that you've had to process and understand, and really sort of go, okay, well, where am I at now? What can I do with this? And yeah, I just send out all my love and appreciation for you, not just doing that for yourself, but to really try and help others to feel that they're not alone in that either, and to be inspired by that.
Yeah, totally. And it continues to amaze me. Like, I think that I don't know, sometimes I feel like the whole processing will be like a lifelong thing. Like, every time I think, like, okay, like, I'm out of it, like, I've got this, right? There's something else that always pops up. Um, so that the whole processing thing, like, it's a whole journey in itself. I would love to know more about your story. Like, How'd you get here? How'd you become a transformologist? That is such a fun word, by the way.
Yeah, it is fun. So basically, it's just like the transformative side of our minds, and I facilitate women to get that. So it is a pretty cool word. So sort of like psychology, but just for women, basically, because we're very different. Our minds are so different. We don't really realize that. But for me, it was I would never saw myself doing anything like uh, making change, helping people, having my own business. None of that ever. I was this really like self. I didn't really have much self esteem. I really just didn't like myself. I didn't love myself. I didn't feel confident. I didn't feel ever felt like I fitted in. I felt like I tried to create friends and connections, but it wasn't real. It was like I was just trying to be what I thought that person wanted me to be. And so I was just this chameleon. I had a bit of, you know, go on in my childhood. Like my mum and dad split up, and it was sort of a toxic sort of thing where they were trying to both have custody. And for so long, like it was just sort of not a, that wasn't a great situation. We had to move. And when we moved to this new school, I remember starting year three, and I just got this perception that other people were judging me, and I felt judged like all the time, and I got bullied a lot because I was a bit of a tomboy, and I just don't think people really like that. It was like you're. I remember one of the girls at recess once asked a question. They were like, "Would you rather be a girl or a boy?" And I just like sort of was just like, I don't know. And then like my other friend took me around the corner and was like, you need to tell them that you want to be a girl, and like made this huge deal. So she took me back around, brought back up the subject, and made me answer the question. And I don't know why that stuck with me for so long, but it was sort of like just that reinforcement that you have to be in a box. Like we were sort of saying earlier, like this is what you have to do to be accepted. Otherwise, people are going to think you're weird. Otherwise, you're going to have no friends. People are going to leave you. And I think I just had this innate fear inside of my body of being alone. And I felt safe that if I was just accepted, I would never be alone. And so I did everything I could to be accepted and have people like me. And I thought that that was the most important thing. But with that came so much stress because I was trying so hard to be everything for everyone. And I was putting on this mask, and no one knew who Steph was because I would just say what I thought they wanted to say. Like I would agree with everyone. I was just this chameleon that just shapeshifted and changed into whatever they expected me to be. But then I was this perfectionist. I put so much pressure on myself, high expectations to get everything perfect and be perfect because then no one could pick on me. So I sort of burnt out
Yeah, wow.
from that point.
Yeah. Looking back now, like, do you feel like it was more because I can relate to that in some aspects. And for myself, I feel like it was more, you mentioned being alone, having that innate fear of being alone. And um for myself, I know looking back, like trying to be somebody or something that I was not was more lonely than being myself could have ever been.
Yes, that is that quote. Like that is exactly what it is because you are surrounded by people, but you feel so alone.
Yeah, totally. And now, like I know better now than ever that like being myself will being myself is magnetizing, right? And so it'll attract all of the right people, and all of the wrong ones will like peace out. Don't let the door hit you on your way out. Like, no problem
Yes.
there. So, oh gosh. Oh my gosh. What what was the point in your journey where you were like, no, like this is enough? And what did you do to start shifting?
I basically from as I was growing up, I was always that person that what other people wanted me to be, and that I think got me into a really bad place. I was in a very toxic relationship, late school and out of school, like late teen years, abusive, manipulative, narcissistic, and depleted any sense of little bit of self-worth that I actually had in there. Um, and then I finally met my husband, but I didn't really believe I was worthy of love and all the amazing things that he would do and say. I didn't feel like that was me. I was just like, oh, you don't actually see me, because if you knew who I was, you wouldn't be treating me so nicely. Because I really just believed, like, I started to believe like I was a really bad person. Because when you have someone treating you and telling you that you are making them do all these horrible things, you think, oh wow, like I must be pretty bad to have someone telling me that, and to be having someone react to me that way. Um, anyway, I was in high pressure sort of jobs, actually managing workers' compensation claims of people that had injured themselves at work. And I feel like I started maybe taking on some of that because I was having to call people and tell them that I had to cut off their benefit. Um, and just hundreds of those phone calls a day. And anyway, I started developing chronic, like, well, I started developing neck pain. And I remember went to a chiropractor, and he like did an adjustment in my lunch break, and I went back to my desk and I was like, oh my gosh, like there's something wrong here. And when I got home, I just had excruciating pain up the top part of my spine, and I like couldn't move, and I was just screaming. And I went back to the chiro, and he was just like, oh yeah, like you just need some time, like it'll calm down. And it didn't go away. Like the extremity of it over about a week started to dissipate, but the pain never went away. And so it was this long journey of trying to figure out what was wrong, how to stop it, but still try and live a normal life. And I'm pretty stubborn as a person, so I was like, oh, I'm not going to let it win. I'm going to just keep trying to live and do everything with it. And because I had high expectations of myself, I'll push myself, and I can't let anybody see. And I just put this mask on and pretend I was this happy person. And then I would just crumble, and I would even cry in my car at work. I would bawl my eyes out on my lunch breaks. That would be my lunch. I would just go have a cry and then go back. I'll cry myself to sleep at nighttime. I looked for help in so many places because I was like, oh, if I could just fix the pain and I could fix what was going on. But obviously, there's a lot emotionally going on that I really believed about myself that was just making it so much worse. I was just holding on to so much stress and pain, and I just really actually hated myself and my body. I thought it was punishing me. I felt trapped. I was overwhelmed. I felt like I couldn't breathe. And I was seeing psychologists and things like that, and I would just feel worse because I would tell my story again and again, and I would just it hurt me so much to share it. And then, someone will be like, oh, my practice is finishing, or I have to hand you over to this person. And I just kept feeling like I just had to keep sharing my story, but I wasn't getting any better. And one day, one of the psychologists said to me, like, you're just going to have to accept this. And and I think it's just that like little part of me that's just like again quite stubborn. And I was just like, no, like, because I picture my future, and I knew I was in such a bad place, and I was just like, "This can only get worse." Like, if I'm if I'm living my whole life till, like, I already felt like I was a little old lady. I felt like I was, like, 85. It's like, if this is how I feel now, like, what's my life like, what do I have to look forward to? Like, what it's gonna be so much worse in the future when I'm older. And I just couldn't, and I stopped looking. I gave up hope, that somebody else could help, and I didn't know how to help me. So although I was stubborn, I didn't really know what to do. Um, but I eventually found transformology, and was it was a couple of years later, but I wasn't really looking. It was just a friend I knew, years prior, had started the Institute of Women International and started helping women in this thing, and wanted someone to help her edit some videos of her clients before and after, showing the difference emotionally on. And I said, I can help because I love editing videos. And then I saw these women completely talking about how broken they felt, and then afterwards how amazingly free and happy, and just like this burden had been lifted, and I could just see it in their eyes. And I just said to my husband, like, I don't know what that is, but like, I need that. Like, and so I ended up asking the lady about it, and she was like, "Yep, but I can't guarantee to help you with any of your physical stuff. Only the emotional stuff." And I was like, "Wow, if you can guarantee the emotional stuff, like, please help me. Like, it's half of my problem."
You're like, sign me up.
I was just like, "What? Yes, please." Like, even if I'm in the worst agony, if I feel like better about it, and I'm not going down these negative spirals and not sitting in my head about it and just overthinking and dwelling, like, that has to be some sort of freedom, even if it's not the physical stuff.
Holy smokes. Um, the way I like almost want to cry right now, literally, because I relate to so much of that. Like the stubbornness, starting with stubbornness, okay? Like hard-headed is all get out over here. Especially when it's something that I know that I want or need or whatever, right? Like, and then like of course, like our circumstances, our situations are two very different things. But like the things and the feelings that you are describing, um, my injury happened when I was 14. I'm gonna be 30 in about a month. Like that's wild. And
Yeah.
it wasn't like well, right out of the gate, like I was told, like you're never gonna walk again, you'll never regain function, you'll never regain any feeling, blah blah blah. I wasn't even supposed to breathe again on my own. And like that
Wow.
has just never sat well with me. And in that, like, I have continued to look for the things that'll help me get back what I can because, like you said, like you felt like you were a grandma already. And like, if that was your life then, what was the rest of your life gonna be? And like I will always say that I'm so grateful for like my injury and like the whole situation because really it has been the greatest gift. It has opened my eyes, my mind, my heart, like all of the things. And there are days when I'm just like, if this is gonna be the rest of my life, like living with a body that only works, 85% of the time or 85% of the way it's supposed to, like what the hell? I don't want it. I don't want it. And so like continuing to look
Yes.
for the things that will help you improve, like, oh my gosh, I feel that so much. I feel that so much. Um,
Yes.
so after you started the transformology and like that whole thing, did you notice, what did you notice? Tell me your experience. I would love to know.
Oh, so it works so quickly, and I think that threw me because I was so used to getting told that it all takes so much time. Like you just have to keep working on it. You have to keep doing it. You just have to keep going every single day, follow all these things, do all these steps, have this routine. And so I had just had, well, after my first session, I was just like, oh my gosh, like most of my emotional stuff was completely gone.
Wow.
And then I only had one more and I was done. And like the lady was asking me, like, what is it like to, to not feel this way about yourself anymore? What's it like to not feel trapped and overwhelmed and to love yourself and accept yourself and not feel judged and stuff? And and I'm just thinking, what has happened? Like it can't be this, like it can't actually be this fast. Nothing actually really works that quickly. Maybe I've just been tricked. Maybe it's just like feeling okay for now, but
Mhm.
it might come back. But I was looking, where like you can connect with an emotion. I don't know really how to describe it, but in myself, it was sort of like it was always there and I could just look for it and connect to it. And she was like, how do you feel about your body and how do you feel about whatever it might have been? And I think I had said something like, I feel like a hollow egg and all the good stuff has been scooped out and thrown away. And she said, how do you feel about that now? And I'm just like, I I actually don't. Like it doesn't feel like that is something that I would even say or believe. It doesn't exist in me anymore. Like I was looking for it and it wasn't there in me anymore. It didn't exist. It actually had been, it was like it had just been taken away. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So, like, without feeling overwhelmed and putting those high expectations and pressure on myself, with that gone, I was able to just finally effing relax for once, give myself a
Yeah.
freaking break and not push and push and push because my body was just like, girl, like, you need to take a break. Like, and I think because I was highly anxious, like I felt like my body was just vibrating on this like high level all the time. And no matter what I did, I couldn't relax. And so it just straight away took all that out. And I was just like, oh wow, like I'm just so calm. Like I would overthink everything. And so without that, my mind was just quiet and I could think about the thing I was doing instead of the past and the future and all the other things that normally would go on in my brain. So I could actually be present. I felt like before I was never actually present in the moment. I was living in
Mm.
my head. Um, and also the societal rules, they were so big for me because I was trying to live up to expectations of myself and others and felt like I was failing. And I felt like I was failing. My body was failing. I felt like I was failing everybody else and I felt like I was failing myself. But when I got the learnings around that it doesn't actually matter because we get learnings from ourselves and we heal ourselves, and the stuff for me was just like you get to to do whatever you want in your life. Like you don't have to please anybody but yourself. And obviously people say that to you all the time, right? But when you do it in a session, actually goes in, you actually believe it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, when I realized that, I was just like, why am I living for other people? Like, so me and my husband, we just like quit our jobs and we traveled around Australia with our dog in our rooftop tent for 12 months.
Oh my gosh, how fun.
Just like, let's just go. Like, let's just quit our jobs, rent our house out, sell all that stuff, and just go. Because
Wow.
I didn't realize, like, my life was dedicated around what other people expect me to be.
I think that is like the majority of human population, like creating, not even creating, like literally settling for shit that other people expect from us. Like, and that's so wild to think about. That is so wild.
Yeah.
Because for what?
Yes.
What the heck?
For
Oh my
absolutely
gosh.
what? Because if every single person is living for somebody else on this planet, who who gets to live as themselves?
Oh, oh, wow. Wow. That was such a powerful statement. Like that hit me right in the freaking heart. Holy smokes. Woo. Um, wow. Yeah. Okay. So then, okay, you and your husband sold your stuff, packed up, took your pupper, and lived out of a, did you say a tent or a camper for 12 months?
Yeah, it's like a four-wheel drive with a rooftop tent, so it, like,
Okay.
goes up and you get to climb up and, yeah,
Okay.
sleep up on the roof.
Yeah. What was that experience like? Like, I imagine that, like, just having like enough freedom within yourself to be like, nope, like this is what we're doing. We're selling our crap and we're hitting the road. Like, I imagine that being such like a freeing and exhilarating experience.
Oh, it absolutely was, and I think it really matched the feeling I had inside. I felt free,
Mm.
and so it was like, I get to match that on the outside now in my world, in what I do and what my world looks like. I'm gonna match it. It's what it felt like. It was like, okay, because all these restraints are now gone. Let's just go and feel that freedom and live that freedom. And it was. And um it's a perfect description of it because we were just like, we're not putting any time frames, no schedules, because like you just normal daily life is all these schedules and all these things. And even when you go on holidays, it's like we're going to cram everything in because we want to get all these things done.
Wow. So you had no idea. You just packed up and you had no idea how long you were going to be gone for. Like you were just out there living, girl. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we were like, we were just like, no, because that's the freedom part of it. We didn't want to do it and then be like, but we're going to have all these time constraints and all these things that we want to get to and have it all scheduled out. Because even though it's like a still amazing thing, it was the opposite. Like we were like doing the opposite of what we had always done. So like, let's just give ourselves that break. Let's give ourselves that time. Let's take that pressure off. Let's take expectations away because we don't actually have to have expectations from anyone. And then we'll just wake up in the morning and go, where do you feel like going? What do you feel like doing today?
Oh my gosh, that is so fun. When you guys decided that this is what you were gonna do, was there any like fears that popped up for you, or were you just no?
Well, I was originally thinking I really wanted to do something like that before I did the emotional work, but I had so many fears pop up about security, financial security, what other people are going to be thinking. That's going to wreck, my future, and it's not the smartest decision financially because you're just like not working for a whole entire year or whatever it might have been. and all those things. But because I cared so much about that, that was really driving me nuts. But then when I did the healing, I worked on all of those things, all of
Okay.
those fears. So then they weren't fears anymore whatsoever. So then that was just like, that was then so easy to be so excited by it and to actually enjoy it while we were doing it. Because I feel like even if I had forced myself through my stubborn side to do it prior, I would have still had all those fears and stuff, and it would have really made it nowhere near as fun.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so funny because that's literally like, excuse me, when you had said, like we quit our jobs and we just up and left for that year, like that's like the first thing that popped into my mind. I was like thinking of myself doing that. I was like, oh my God, I would be like freaking out about the financial aspect. Like, how the heck did she do that? Like, just let go of that like fear, because for me, that would be such a big thing. I know. So holy smokes.
Yeah, it was. And like I was always just so, I feel like I feel like I strangled money in my life before, because when we grew up, we have 4 kids. Mum and dad split up when we were young, and we didn't have much. And I remember not having, enough money for a lot of things. We thankfully always got fed. But it was dire straits a lot of the time. My parents went bankrupt. And mum was, a single income casual teacher raising 4 children on her own. And I never wanted to be in that situation. I never wanted to have to worry about money. So the fear around having to worry about money again, and not having a steady, secure job, doing what the normal people do and having a really good career. And I would always push myself for the next job and the next job and the next job, like trying to prove myself. Felt like I just was born trying to prove myself. I don't know why. Um, but yeah, once that pressure around the fact that security comes from money, I think my security did come from money, and then also having people. So when I got resolved those fears, and I didn't feel like that my security was attached to money, and that my security was attached to others and where I was, it was like, sweet, like I'm free. Like there's no fear there.
Wow. Wow. Um, so okay. So you up and left for a year. You What happens after the year's up? Like what do you guys do?
So it was so random. We like went randomly all around, all different places in Australia. No, like we could have done it so much easier. We backtracked, went to the same places a few times. Like we were all over the place, because there was different people that wanted to meet up with us on our trips, in the middle of Australia, in Ayers Rock, Tasmania. And so we were sort of all over the place. But then COVID happened, and we got stuck in Western Australia. And normally I would have been freaking out because no one's around. But like we're basically by ourselves, and we have to figure it out. And we didn't know anyone, didn't know the area, didn't know anything. We're up in like this desert area, like mining town. And we just embraced it. We're like, fine, we'll just stay here and work for a bit. And my husband got a job driving really long trucks, like they're called road trains, out in the
Okay.
desert, and he was loving it. And I realized then, they're like, I want to find something that I love, because I'd gone from admin jobs and working in really stressful environments, taking on way too much work, to freeing myself of all this stress. And then I'm like, well, now what? Like, I don't want to go work in another environment where I really don't, it's not for me. Like, I just knew then, I could just hear my intuition, like, that's not for you. Like,
Mhm.
that's not where you belong. And I was just thinking, like, what is it that I love? Like, what is it that I could do or want to do? And I've never known that in my whole life. And I felt like there was something wrong with me because of that, because a lot of the time everyone knows what they want to do and they just go out to uni and do it, or just go straight into a trade or something. And
But
I
do they
never
really
knew
know what
really
they
what I
wanna
wanted to
do?
do.
Like, I feel like that's like,
Yeah.
like, I feel like that's the in the box thing again. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
nobody really knows. They just do the thing because that's what they're supposed to do.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Man, okay. I did not mean to interrupt you. Continue.
No, you didn't, not at all. It's exactly what it is, and it's true, and I just never really saw it that way. I just thought everyone knows what they wanna do except for me, and
Mm,
I'm behind, and, all these things. Anyway, so I was just like, I realized that helping people feel the way that I felt, and through the fears and things that I went through, knowing that there was other women now out there that felt that way too, um, that I could help. And I was like, I want to train in that. Now that I've gone and done it for myself, lived life in that free place, knowing how much my life has changed, and that it really does stick, and it wasn't just like a thing that worked for a bit and now all this stuff's come back. That's what I wanted. Like, I want to help women feel that. Like, I was just thinking there's nothing else that would make me feel as amazing to give that feeling
mm.
to another woman.
Oh, yeah. What, and I mean, what a gift for, I mean, not only you, but the person on the other end that you're helping. Like, holy smokes. Um, so was it at that point you started your business?
I started training, and then so through the Institute of Women, they train their facilitators. So it is your own business, but you're heavily sort of audited and trained in a particular way so that everyone's doing it the same way. You
Mm,
constantly got ongoing training and support. And so you get your license first up and all your training to make sure that you can go out and safely facilitate that emotional change for women, because you're working with women's minds. You've got to know what you're doing.
yeah.
And so I started that training and then became licensed. I think it was in December of 2020. So I started my business just after. It's probably in that new year of 2021.
Okay.
No, maybe it was 2019. No, yeah, 2020, I think. I'm a bit confused. I've almost been doing it for 2 years. I'm not great with numbers.
Oh my gosh. I'm not either. So I mean, I can't even like, I can't say nothing because when it comes to numbers, I'm like, no, keep those as far away from me as possible. Thank you.
Yes, that's my relationship with them too. We are not close.
No, and honestly, I don't desire to be close with them unless it's like my income, right? Like, yes, I want to be close with those numbers. Like, I want those numbers to be big, but like any other numbers, no, thank you.
Keep your distance.
Yeah,
Oh, I love it.
totally. Oh my gosh. Yes. Um, okay, so beginning of 20, wait, shoot. Beginning of 2020, is that what you said?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yep. We'll go
Okay.
with that.
All right, we'll go with it. We'll pretend if nothing else. Oh
Yeah,
my
I
God.
think that's when I first sort of started. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So then between then and now, what has happened? Like, where are you today? Like, oh, Tell us the juicy goodness.
Oh, so I just get to fill my time with helping women with their own emotional issues. So whatever they're going through, whether like it's absolutely anything. It could be the way that they feel as a mum. It could be the way that they feel about their body. It could be the way that they feel in life. Like overall, we have so many different aspects of ourselves and different pressures and different ways that we see ourselves, feel about our life, feel about our past, feel about the future, fears, doubts, insecurities, whatever those things are that are showing up for an individual woman, I help her through completely. And so I've worked with women with pain and issues, women that have just got things like anxiety and panic attacks, um, women that just feel like they've lost the spark in themselves,
Mm,
women that um, really have a bad relationship with their bodies, and they feel like that they hate themselves, so that then they start actually treating themselves like they hate themselves, so they don't nourish themselves and like give themselves all good food. They just, like binge eat or whatever it is. It's like a lot of the time the way that we feel about ourselves is then the way that we treat ourselves. And um, when we're carrying so much stress, it's like we're in sort of survival mode, because stress can just cause so many issues in our lives. And so whatever the woman needs, I work with her to completely clear and free her from all of it completely. But normally it's 3 to 4 sessions and she's done, because
wow.
it's just the female way, and women are really different in what we need. So when we find what we need, it actually works quickly, because it doesn't take hard work. It doesn't take consistent work. It's just quick, fast. This is what we need. Let's just make that change. Oh, that's done now. It's actually sorted. Now you get to go live without that in your life. And so, yeah, I just work over Zoom with women wherever they are in the world, and just helping them on their journey. Like sometimes women aren't really ready for that big change emotionally, because when you change all that, you basically then change your life after it, because you make it match, right? And
Yep.
some women are like not really at that point where they've tried everything and they know that this is really what they've got to do, because everything else hasn't lasted. But there's lots of different ways that I do help women, even if it's just the initial consult where I help them to identify the things that are going on for them, because then I can actually show them and say, look, these are the things. And then it's up to them what they do with that. But having that insight into yourself is really helpful, because self can't analyze self. So as much as we can get in our heads and start to think, oh, this is the thing I have, and this is what's going wrong with me, and this is my fear, and all of that, it's not until you're with someone that's trained to identify them, and then they can tell you, and you can go, oh, wow, yeah, absolutely. That's exactly how I feel. And that's exactly what I'm thinking.
Mm,
And then we work on those things. So it's a beautiful, beautiful, I feel very blessed to be able to help the women that do connect with with my story, and or connect in a way that they know that I'm the person that they sort of trust to help them.
yeah. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Do you, okay, so in listening to you say that, do you feel like, because like you said, like they have to be ready for the change. Do you feel like this is like the last resort, like almost for a lot of them, because they're so fed up with their own crap, and they're just like, I will do literally, quite literally, almost anything to get out of where I am.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
That's exactly the women that I help. And I think when you're at that place, it can be scary, because you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm at the end. Like if this doesn't work, what do I have? because I have tried everything, and either I've got no results or it's not lasting. I felt like I was past this and it's come back. So it can be scary for them because they're like, but then if it doesn't work, then what? Because you're at the end of the line. But the end of the line is where this shines, because this is what it's made for. And I think knowing that you can look at a woman in the eye and say, I can absolutely 100% guarantee that I can help you, or I'll give your money back, is, I think, that hope that I was always craving. Because you'd give them all of you and say, like, please help me, like, help me through this stuff. And it was like that little ball of hope, they were just like dropping it and smashing it on the floor, because although they told you they could help you, it wasn't helping. And then you would start to believe that maybe I can't be fixed, I am too broken. And then, that hope is so important. And so I will never tell anyone that I don't 100% know, and I can see, like, when I look at her, I can see her on the other side and I know that she can do it. I would never tell someone that I can, because I would never want to be part of um, that space in someone's life, because I know how hard that is. I know how hard that was for me. I'm a pretty
Mhm.
sensitive person, so
Yeah.
I was just, yeah, like, please help me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I so love that because like even for me, like trying all these, girl, I have tried so many things. Like I said, like that stubbornness in me, like will never take no for an answer about any sort of function or feeling that I may or may not get back in my life. But like I have tried so many things over the past 15 plus years, and like hanging on to that hope is really all I have, like at this point. And some days that's barely there. Like, holy smokes. So my heart feels for them women that feel, like this is their last resort. And like, if this doesn't work for them, then they're SOL. Like, I totally feel for them. Wow.
Yeah, and hope is so important to have. Like, we always need it. We always need hope. We, and when we lose hope, it can be really, 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 really dark place, because it's like, the way I see hope, it's like this little light. But if we don't have it, it's like we are in the dark. It's just like, well, where do we go now,
Yeah.
And anyone that feels like that, like, I just want to say that, like, there is always hope. There is always a way. And just, yeah, get that stubbornness, hang on to that, and just continue to keep seeking the thing that feels right for you. Like, just keep looking, because there is amazing stuff, and everyone's got their own things that they need at a certain point in their life. We're all at different points. I couldn't have done this any time before I did, because I wasn't at the place. I wouldn't have taken it in. I wouldn't have understood it. I wouldn't have realized that I needed it, because I had to go, unfortunately, had to go through so much first. But everyone's at their own different points, and there's some amazing people out there doing amazing things, and that just stay stubborn.
Stay stubborn. Oh my God, that should be like on a t-shirt or something.
That's gonna be my motto from now on. Stay
For real.
stubborn.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Oh, it was seriously so good chatting with you, getting to know you and a little bit more about your story, and also your heart and the women you help. Um, so thank you for giving me your time and energy today. It is so appreciated. Are there any final words that you would love to leave our audience with?
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a beautiful conversation. I just wanted to share that I will give you a link to a free consult if
Okay.
anyone wants to find out what's going on inside of themselves. Normally, I charge 300 Australian dollars for those, but for anyone that listens to this and feels like I resonate and I would like to find out what's actually going on, it's no obligation to proceed with anything from that point, but I'll absolutely be able to show you like all the fears and doubts and insecurities and beliefs that are going on inside of yourself, sort of keeping you feeling a certain way in your life. If you're not as happy as you want to be, feel free to book in and I would love to give you that time. But yeah, like if just, yeah, stay stubborn. Don't give up hope. Don't give up on yourself. Know that you are so worthy. Even if you don't feel like you are worthy of an amazing life and living on your own terms and throwing that goddamn expectation rule book down the street.
Yes. Amen to that, sister. Awesome. Amazing. Thank you so much. All of Stephanie's links will be in the show notes for you to check out, including that free consult. And Stephanie, thank you again for sitting down with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an amazing conversation.